All right. So this is episode what of UBI 52, I think.
Yeah. We already have a title. That's hilarious. Tell
Yes.
people what the title is. Oh my god.
Well, we don't. Well, we'll see if we have a title or not. But
Okay.
welcome to the show. Today, we have Ayo with me. Manny is not here because he's got grown up.
Grown up things.
Yeah, he's got grown folks responsibilities. So, yeah. What's up? Long time. How have you been?
You know, chilling. Like,
Chilling.
and yeah, it's funny. Like, we had all these grand plans of how many episodes we were gonna shoot around the same time zone, and we literally did one, and that was when I was in your house. So, but the
Yeah.
summer was like there was a lot going on, you know.
Yeah, the summer is kind of like it's wild.
Yeah.
It goes by so fast. And for me, like I had the summertime was actually an interesting time because I had a lot of time to just be by myself and a lot of time to think and to just like I danced a lot, you know, like salsa, that kind of thing, and I was just out there doing my own thing. So yeah, it was a great.
He was living like the person without responsibilities. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, you still have responsibilities, but it's kind of like my days were just so free. Like it felt like I was back to being a teenager. You
Oh,
know,
that's
when
funny.
when you had vacations as a teenager, like you had nothing to do. Like it was the best times, right? Like you don't have school, you don't have anything. You're just kind of like, oh, it's vacation, it's holidays. So
Mm.
that was what the summer felt like to me, to some degree. I mean, I still had to work, but it wasn't. It wasn't like it wasn't the usual type of. I didn't have the usual schedule, so I mean, I was
Mm.
sleeping until late. I mean, I would sometimes just sit down and just think. Like
I don't even know how to do that.
I had planned times to think, and I would
I
have things
don't.
that I wanted to think about. Like I was so intentional, and that was, I mean,
Interesting.
and that wasn't really something that I would usually do. I mean, usually I would just go through life and whatever pops to mind,
Mm.
what I think about, maybe I'm just going through something and then I'm just thinking about that in the moment. But no, this was more intentional in the sense that I'm like, okay, I want to think about things that, maybe happened in my past and perhaps how that affected me. Um,
Oh, is this like we talking trauma or we talking like
I mean, all of the above, whether, things that
that's
were
so fascinating.
whether it is conscious, trauma or subconscious,
Mm.
but it was more exploratory from my perspective, more like, okay, it's not necessarily because I felt or thought that certain things traumatized me, but was more like, you know, did certain experiences shape who I am subconsciously, how I think, how I react to people,
Mm.
and so I had different landmarks in terms of different
Mm.
experiences that I thought were that I thought were significant enough to 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 probably shape who I am. And I would think about them, like I thought about them, like I had conversations with myself, like I had a lot of notes.
Interesting. This is like next level.
Yeah, but like I said, I had never really done that. What I found though, like I know one of the this is a fad these days, and I think it's a good fad, right? Like people talking about taking care of their mental health, like talking to a psychologist and that kind of thing. Like it is, I think it's a good fad. Like I think people, um, people need to people need to have a psychologist, like or talk to one before on a constant and consistent basis. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, they're not cheap, and if you can afford it. I was talking to a friend recently, and she told me that that she, this friend has another friend who 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 like they she has this other friend, like I guess they are like a couple, and they've been
Hmm.
seeing a psychologist. I don't know who they are, but and she and her thinking was, hey, like, I mean, if you're at a point where at the beginning of your relationship, if you're seeing a psychologist, that doesn't bode well. And my response
Hmm.
and my
Yeah, that's not
response was like,
true.
what?
I said that's not true.
So that
I
was
guess
my
I guess it depends. I should say the lawyerly response, right, is it depends on.
my yeah. So that was kind of like my response, like, not necessarily that. In fact, you should see a psychologist when you think nothing is wrong.
Right,
Like, you
right.
shouldn't necessarily wait until you're having issues or or problems or whatever before you say, oh, maybe I need to talk to like you should still talk to a psychologist even when you feel like, oh, you know what, I think I'm in a good space, like mental space or whatnot. Like you should still you should still talk to one, like. So but anyway, um but yeah, I mean, but for me, like, yeah, like I had a lot of time to be very intentional about what I thought about what I thought. Basically just taking stock of my life up till now. So it was a very good summer. I loved it. I loved it. Like,
Mm.
I was so by myself. I was solid. I mean, it was this solitary. I'm like, oh my god, I missed it so much. What
uh,
what what, what about you? How was yours? I mean, I know you were gallivanting all over the place, but
I was living my life in color. That's what I've been telling people. Living life in color. So that's what I was doing this summer. Um, I mean, you know, and I don't know if the audience knows, I was in Europe. It's so funny. Every time I say it to people, I feel like an asshole. Like, I don't know why. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, so I was in France this summer for 3 months, and I just feel like such a jerk because like,
it's like this girl is a douchebag. It's like, oh,
it feels like it.
my summer, you be sort of fun.
I was talking to Chateau France, I was in Marseille, Nice, Monaco. So funny story. I'm at this African festival this weekend in
That
Houston.
is your love festival or whatever.
No, this was like AfriFest. This was literally
After,
like,
yes, I saw
yeah.
it.
So I run into a friend because Houston, like, I feel like 5 out of 10 people I run into, probably even more that I already know, are like, oh, you still live in Houston? And I'm like, yeah, guys, I always lived here. Like,
I'm
the
not
last
going
time I didn't
anywhere.
live in Houston is like when I lived in Lagos for 2 years, which probably is why, and then I came back, pandemic, all of that, right? But yeah, people keep asking me for, I'm like, yes, I live here. Like, I'm literally here right now. But one friend says, oh yeah, because last I heard you were in Monte Carlo, and I fell out of my chair because I was like, Monte Carlo? That's so random. He's like, but were you in Monte Carlo? I'm like, I mean, for like a day. So it just, I'm telling you, this is why I feel like an asshole because I'm like,
But didn't you
was I
talk
in Monte
about
Carlo?
did you talk
Mhm.
about being in Monte Carlo like on a Twitter thread or
I mean, I was in I had a Twitter thread about Marseille. Like, I don't know that I tweeted from. I don't know that I would have ever tweeted the words I'm in Monte Carlo because, like, I was in Monaco. Like, I've been in Monaco twice in the last year, but both times were like for a day, right? So I wouldn't have been like, "Ooh, I'm in Monte Carlo." Like, I'd be like, "I'm in Monaco," because, like,
maybe you were
it's
thinking Monaco, the person,
yeah. I mean, and Monte Carlo is it's the like, well, the fancy stuff is in Monaco, right? Like, Monaco's got a couple of districts, even though it's like the size smaller than Central Park, but Monte Carlo is like the fanciest district. So Monte Carlo, Monaco, whatever. What probably happened is that whoever it was saw that I was at Formula One in
Mhm.
Monaco, and they were like, "Oh man, she out here in Monte Carlo," because obviously also Monte Carlo sounds way fancier than Monaco. So it's like, "I'm in Monaco. Oh, is that a village in your country?" Oh, Monte Carlo. It's like, oh, from the Mount of Monte Cristo and Count of Monte Cristo. I mean, or whatever. But anyway, all of that to say, I feel like such a douchebag when I talk about these things. But it was a good summer. I'm starting to like think about next summer and like how I want my summer to look like. And I know for sure I want to do like I want to stay in the same time zone ish, sort of. At least for part of it. And I think 3 months was a lot to be gone. And I think if I were to do it again, I have some things I would do differently, especially with work. But for sure, I'm trying to do like at least a month in Colombia. I think that'll be really good, and then just kind of visit that area a little bit. But summer was chill. I gotta sneeze one second.
Colombia, I mean, yes, you should definitely go to Colombia. I love Colombia. Um,
Yeah, that's your hood, right?
Cartagena, Santa Marta.
Yeah. I'm excited because I've not done much of the Americas. Like I've done Belize, Costa Rica, Mexico. That's literally the only places I've been south of America.
Have you been to Mexico City?
Yeah, love Mexico City. Like that's actually the only place in Mexico I've been to. I need to try to do the others, but Mexico City was like first stop, and I was like, yes. I actually thought about spending like a couple of weeks there and just like hanging.
Yeah, like Mexico. I love Mexico City so much. Like it was, yeah. Like I'm like, if I'm gonna live in like in a Spanish speaking country, I just thought Mexico City has it all. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fair.
there are flights everywhere. If you needed to get out, it has
Yeah, get back to the US and all that. You can, yeah, real
like
quick. Oh, Guatemala too. I've been to Guatemala.
mm.
Guatemala's good vibes.
You've been to Guatemala. Have you been to Panama?
Mm-mm. So Panama, I think I can do from Colombia.
Yes.
Like,
I
yeah,
mean, if you
Panama, Aruba. I was
mm,
like, hold up, map. I was looking at them. I'm very bad at geography. I'll like start looking at a trip and I'll be like, look what's close by there. I guess I should go there. So, but anyway. What's in your mind? What do you want to talk about today?
well, I mean, I don't have a lot to talk about except I don't know the last conversation we had with Manny on the show, and we had him basically twerking for Kanye.
Oh God. Honestly, like that man is off his rockers, if he ever was on his rockers. Or to the extent that you can call whatever he was on, even if they're not our rock, it's just like, what?
Yeah,
But
yeah, go
it's
ahead.
good. It's good for him that all of these like consequences are happening because like we all know you don't fuck with the Jewish people. Like, you know. And you
Dude, I
fuck around and you find out, and he's finding out. And there's people that are like, oh, this is his plan the whole time.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
Kanye knows the future, and he's such a genius that he knows what every decision he'll make. Okay, fine, whatever. I don't even want to care about him. Like, I'm off Twitter, so I'm like not seeing all these things, and I just do not
Why?
want to care.
That's actually a bigger controversial.
Twitter.
Why are you off Twitter?
Oh my God. So it actually is a very interesting, like, so I'm off Twitter, like my personal account. I have a work Twitter page that I created to for like work networking type stuff. So I still go on that one, but it definitely does not spark the same level of like engagement as like my normal Twitter. And even that one, I don't go on that much. But I still like, I mean, I don't have the app right now on any of my devices, but why am I off Twitter? It's so funny. I this summer actually I remember being like on a Twitter space and kind of talking about like what Twitter really does to your brain. Like, you know how they used to have like your brain on drugs? Like, I want to see like your brain on like constant social media, especially Twitter, because you wake up in the morning, right? And like many people, you open your Twitter app, and I wish I had the like self discipline to be like, I'm not going to check Twitter until lunchtime or whatever, right? But I don't. I'm on Twitter like first thing in the morning. So wake up open your Twitter app first thing in the morning, and you or scrolling through like a lot of people's thoughts, right? In 5 minutes on Twitter, you can have seen 25, 30 people's thoughts about different things, right? It could be like the most mundane thoughts to like people talking about their fucking trauma or like just problems or their perspective on the world that is so different from yours in a way that like you can wake up and like it's a beautiful day, I am alive, I am well, I'm at peace, and then people are like, oh no, the world is on fire, Mercury is in retrograde and Gatorade and limeade and all of these things, and just oh my god, like Twitter, they're gonna kick us off Twitter, the earth is burning, and the Republicans are gonna take away our rights to open our, and you're just like, oh god, like it feels very jarring, but it doesn't feel jarring because we're used to it, and so you're like slowly like incorporating and adding all of this like turmoil into like you're observing it all, right? And so anyway, the conversation was around like how the thing about Twitter, which is you have to like pause to see it and realize it is other than like a news, you know, whatever company, and even beyond them, like CNN, if CNN tweets a thing that happened, ABC, is being sold to XYZ, right? They could just tweet those words because it's happening in the news. Once you click it and you open it, the first set of things you see after that is people's reactions and feelings about it, right? So it's almost like with Twitter, you don't ever just get information, you're getting information and opinions all at the same time, to where your brain is just like, I'm hearing this all at the same time. And so I just feel like it's this sense of like I need my brain to take a break from every other person's like thoughts and opinions, and like oh my god, like when people are like, yeah, we're not supposed to know these many people's thoughts every day all the time. And so I'd been like, I need to take a Twitter break and like a dating break and just like, some time to just like, sort of like you, like spend some time with me, but not even like I'm not scheduling thinking time. I should, but I'm just out here like, look, I just need, like the people I talk to be should be the people that I'm texting or texting me. I mean, I'm still on Instagram for what that's worth. But it's just not nearly the same because, people posting pictures and being pretty and all that stuff. It's not nearly the same level of like, I mean, it happens on Instagram too, but that's sort of why I decided to take a break off Twitter. I've been gone now for a little over a month. Um, it's so funny. Yesterday was the first. Well, this weekend, another friend was like, "Hey, are you off Twitter?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh yeah, because I've been tweeting at you." I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm off Twitter." The other person, though, the one that happened yesterday, was probably like one of those warm moments, but also just like really interesting because my friend texted me and was like, "Hey, how are you? Are you all right? I haven't seen you online in a while." And it was just a very like, I know that like he thought about it and was like, hey, is she okay? I haven't seen her tweets, right? And this is one of those friends who doesn't really tweet, but he like sees all my tweets. Um,
So you are a luchadora on Twitter.
I mean, people, I don't know about that, but a couple of people,
Like
I have friends
picking up
for sure.
fighting and fighting everyone and you know,
Me?
shit talking.
I try and read like I try not to fight, although I will drag
You
somebody like
try not to
Naval blocked me on Twitter because he said something stupid and I said it was stupid.
exactly. Who blocked you?
Naval,
Who is that? Like I don't even know who that.
it's so like Naval is one of those people that like I don't even know how to describe him. He's like a Twitter influencer. He's like a Twitter influencer for like nerds and like startup people. He's always tweeting these like sort of like facts of life. And I gotta find something from him. Like he's just like, I don't even know what Naval
So
does.
you told him it was stupid. I mean, of course, if you tell somebody is
Well,
stupid,
I don't think I said that they were stupid. I think I said that the thing they tweeted about was stupid, which I think is different. I don't think I called the person stupid. It was like, it was a stupid thought, was what it was. Like, I'm gonna find one of his tweets. That's like very naval. Oh no, I don't want to log in to read this.
it's
Ugh.
okay. So,
But
so
it's like naval, like the the armed force. Startups are the Olympics of business. consumer facing apps are the 100-meter dash. Like he tweets things like that. Like, and whatever, right? Like it's like, oh, personal attacks will be blocked. I guess that's why he blocked me. Oh. If you
Well,
can't engage,
you already forewarned you, so
not well, this was October 3rd this year. This, I mean, I'm sure he's tweeted things like that before. I'm gonna search just for fun to see if I can find the thing I tweeted at him because it was quite stupid. Oh man, I think it's gone. Oh well. It was dumb. I feel like it was something that like was a tweet that so I was at brunch this weekend with some friends and we're talking about just how like the world is so
how many and shit.
lol. No, this is a mixed company brunch. But no, we're talking about how we all see the world through our bubbles. And the worst thing is when people don't even know that they're in a bubble, right? And so I think whatever he tweeted was like accurate in certain bubbles, but just not in a lot of bubbles, right? And so it's sort of like saying, travel is so cheap right now. Everybody travels. Like I feel that way because like me and my homies all travel, but like everybody doesn't travel and travel isn't so cheap for every, you know what I mean? Like it's something like that. That's just like a random example.
Or
But
it's
whatever
somebody,
it was,
or it's kind of like somebody saying, you should put $100,000 away within a year.
exactly like who?
You're like, wait, what guy?
Like, what do you? If I put for me to put $100,000 away a year, I need to rob a lot of people, and I need to like probably be able to do like about $200,000 in robbery to be able to have 100K to put away. Like,
Like, I, like what circles are you running in? I mean, I'm sure there are some circles that is possible in, but most people that's not realistic.
and then there's certain things that like, and I think Twitter has made so many people think that everything is for public consumption, right? Like I need y'all to have your little group chat so you can say that shit. Like, that's not for everybody. And especially when you have a certain number of followers, because now you know your tweets are going to end up in places that you didn't intend for them to end up. So it's like, some of these like Nigerians, like somebody tweeted, like, whatever you do as a Nigerian, you got to get you a second passport or you got to buy you a second passport. And it's like, what are you even talking about? Like that is not I think the cheapest second passport you can get right now is probably the Grenadian one, and that's $150,000. That's not like you got to invest the money that, like that's money that you got to come out with and it's gone for that passport. Is it a great deal? Sure, if I had $1 billion, 150K isn't a crazy amount, but like, how you gonna tweet that at me, my regular ass who don't got $150,000, right? Like, obviously, it doesn't apply to me either because I have a second passport. But the point is, when people say things like that, one, it's obviously like, um, I usually don't work till 9, but now I guess people can see that I'm online. They're asking me things, and I'm like, I'm here for my podcast. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway,
I mean, y- you're right. Like in terms of people, I mean, I guess the general takeaways, people don't read the room, right? I get two things. They don't read the room. They just say things like without really thinking about who the audience is, who is consuming this and whatnot. That's one. But I guess the other part is if the person that is tweeting, the people that are putting this information, if they are shrewd enough, they may be doing it on purpose. Like right, there's that other piece where people believe that people will talk about things that will generate a lot of controversy because controversy generates engagement, and engagement is what all that matters, whether it's positive or negative. Like, and it's the negative stuff that generates the most.
the most. I mean, you said it with your YouTube video, right? And I think that that's the other part of it. I hope you do listen to that podcast I sent you last night. It was talking about like, I mean, the title of the podcast is The title of that episode is are we
Done.
stupider than ever, right? And
Mm.
it's from the Aspen conference, and they were just talking about like our political discourse is literally stupider because one, people are playing to the audience, and it's just this thing where like why, like, so there was a thing about Ted Cruz and how he had done something, and they were like, oh, this is like he was playing to his Twitter audience, or like he had given a speech. I think that's what it is. He had given a speech, and right after the speech, like somebody caught, like, he speaks on stage and he goes to sit, right? And whatever else is happening, and they see him on
Check
his phone checking, like, yeah, like checking what
like
Twitter
men.
thinks about his speech.
Uh-huh.
Whereas there was a room full of people who were supposedly the audience of his speech, right? But he's looking for instant gratification. He's looking for noise. He's looking for likes, and being Ted Cruz, he probably doesn't care if it's positive or negative, just that his name is out there, right? Like that's like some really good publicity that you can't pay for.
But it's not just
But
that. I mean, I guess okay. So there are two ways. When you in today's day and age, and this goes to what your ultimate goal is. When you are speaking in a room, you're not just your audience is just not necessarily that room. So you could say outrageous things in that room. You could say whatever, or you because you know that you can take a clip of what you're gonna say, a 30-second clip, a 60-second clip, post it on Twitter or on TikTok, and that is what is gonna spread. Like nobody's gonna remember everything
and,
else.
and that's the world we're in now, right? Which is also making people like, like think about it, like why does it matter what Twitter thinks of like a state rep from Wyoming, right? Like state reps in general, like Twitter shouldn't give a shit what you like, because your voters are such a small group, but of course people are, there's all these reasons, and Twitter just has this immediate like payoff, right? And so people are doing things like that's what, and I try really hard now, and I see tweets that are designed for my outrage or for me to just have some strong emotion. I just have to be like, oh, because like there's a girl who I won't say her name, I follow on Twitter, who, or I actually don't think I follow her anymore, but I know her. She's Nigerian, and I think she tweets specifically. Um, I think she tweets specifically for drama, right? So it's sort of like if I wanted to say, you know, oh, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like there are certain things that you can say where if you said the full thing that happened, like I can't believe this restaurant refused to let me have a reservation. Wow, Houston, so shocked, right? And like you can say it in a certain way that makes it sound like maybe this is something racist, like like, ah, wow, Texas, I thought we were better than this, right? If I say something like that, that allows you to be like, oh no, racism, or what else is going on, right? Whereas what actually happened is that this restaurant would have given me a would have sit me because my whole party was in here, or this restaurant wouldn't give me a reservation because they don't do reservations for individual people, right? Something like that, right? But you can make it sound that way. And so I think she'll do, and not about race, that was just kind of an example, but she'll do that with other things where it's designed for engagement. It's designed for people to get pissed off at her, right? And so then people get pissed off, and she's obviously loving the attention. But then it's kind of like, oh no, you people are always, and it's just like,
Like is it
this is
what?
a game. You are
Yeah,
playing the game. You are doing well at playing the game. Don't act stupid. But again, whatever.
don't act like a
Just
victim, and then you
like
and
you're not. You're the architect of your own misery, and certainly in general your own experience with this platform. But I
so that's
do think.
the
Go
misery
ahead.
part. Like I mean, so I mean, I guess in the case, there may not be misery for this person that you're talking about. Like if they
Right,
if
right. They're
one
like,
is just,
actually, I enjoy it, or it doesn't
yeah,
actually bother me, and that's because like with this person, I've seen things that people have said to her, and I've been like, wow, that's not okay. That's not like, whatever. But then now I'm at the point where I'm like, no, she courts this kind of attention. And I can't be more bothered about it than she is, because clearly she enjoys it. And also because I know that she's a very smart person, I'm like, nah, there's no way. Like, unless she's just like a lot dumber than I think, which is just unlikely, like this is intentional. So now I'm like, why I feel worse for you than you feel for yourself. But again, it's like because the engagement that they want, right? Like they're looking at those numbers and they're like, oh wow, 100,000 people saw this tweet. I'm onto something. And and so I think I'm just at the point where I'm like, I refuse to be part of that, like, audience. So there are people like that that I will mute, block, like I just won't engage with, because you can't be out here trying to farm my emotions like some kind of, you know.
Okay, so this is a good segue. So I mean, so in the last podcast when I was, when we were talking, and this was me and Manny, and he thought that Kanye. I hope I'm not misrepresenting what he said, but he at least his thinking was Kanye, for instance, intentionally would do some of the things that he does, you know, to generate outrage. And I'm starting to question that, like that is the case. Like I actually think not necessarily. Like he knows that yes, it may end up being controversial, but he really believes them. And so that's one part. And the second part is I, I I- I'm looking at someone that is disintegrating right in public, right? Somebody that
Mm.
has some mental issues. One, and two, that we know that he's not taking his medication. He says it stifles his creativity and all of that stuff. And we are not treating him as that. And when I say we, I'm talking about we as a society. Like if this wasn't Kanye West, right? If this was just you know Andre West, a random Andre West in the street, like this guy will be sitting in some room somewhere and probably being held down, and people trying to like have him not hurt himself and maybe trying to have him take his medication. But because it's Kanye, he has all these enablers around him, people that are not going to tell him no, people that are not going to get him to take his meds. And so he's just out there doing these things and self-destructing. But the biggest thing is I think he believes these things that he's saying. Like he's
I
not.
think so too. I
So
I mean, we all believe some questionable things, right? The problem is that like we know not to say them, and I I mean, he's such an interesting case to me because I don't like why, right? Like, but I think that I mean, creatives, enjoy some of this stuff, right? Like enjoys the attention. And Kanye is one of those people that like honestly like the last the last like Kanye thing I've consumed is probably like Jesus Walks, right? Like love that song, used to play it all the time. Like I don't and so I think that like for someone like him, I mean of course like he's, Yeezy's apparently gonna lose Adidas like, 200 million whatever, right? Like there's all these things.
I don't know what he easy look like.
I don't think I know the difference between a pair of Yeezys and a pair of whatever the things off Amazon that are made by random. Like I don't know, but like people who do, right? And also like, we're in our 30s. We're kind of a little like out of the, we're looking for shoes that don't hurt our feet and stuff, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if they hurt or not, but like we're just like, look, can I walk 10 miles in these shoes? If not, like I don't care if it's pretty. Not that I ever was really into sneakers anyway, but I just think that he's bananas and he wants our attention and people are giving it to him. And I don't know, I wonder if there's ever a point where he'll say something and people would just be like, okay, we don't even care, like we don't even care, we just don't care. Hopefully we get there soon, because Jesus, especially now that I'm just on Instagram, you can't mute things on Instagram, and I want to be able to mute Kanye. Like, can't mute a word.
This
It's
is a
annoying.
random. This is a you talked about people wearing shoes that don't break their feet, and this is random. Did you see recently like this Balenciaga distressed shoes? that they were selling. Like these are like rotten, destroyed sneakers that they were selling for almost $2,000.
I think Balenciaga like is like joking. I think that like these things are jokes because like
It's like how like let's see. Are they gonna? Is someone actually gonna buy this? Like you're not gonna. I saw this thing and I
and then
was
I
like,
need evidence that they actually paid real money for it, not that they like bought it and like were really like gifted to just. I think Balenciaga is like a joke. Like I think they're actually a joke. Like just like I'm looking. They've got a mug for $110. Like what is that? Like it's like when they're selling like an office pen. Like what? Like anyway. Again,
yeah.
I
There was one recently where they were they were selling Lay's chips bags for like
oh
two
my
thousand.
god.
Like I'm like, why do
It's just like, what are we even? I just can't. I
I'm
just,
Lay's chips? Like they had
I'm
models,
looking at,
like you couldn't tell the difference between that bag, quote unquote, and another. Like, why would
yeah,
you buy that for like 2,000 or whatever $1,000 it is? Why you can just buy
it's,
like a chip, a Lay chips by itself for like $2?
yeah. And I think that these things, they make one or two of them and it's like a joke, right? Like it's because like, I can't imagine, like when people are like, yeah, some people are sheep, man, they'll buy anything that, but are there really people who are like, oh yeah, because Balenciaga made a bag of chips, I'm going to take out $1,800 and pay for it?
You think there aren't people that would do that? Like you, like you think of it like, yeah, people are not going to do this. Like, are you kidding me?
I
Like,
don't.
like people that would spend nonsensical. I mean, I'm sure you know people that would spend nonsensical money on something just because it's
I don't. I don't. My bubble. Well, I got like one friend that spends money that I don't understand, but even her, she's not crazy. I just like these things stress me because like why?
the
I just
destroyed
I,
sneakers. Like you can. I don't even think you could wear them. Like, did you
I'm
ever see?
too poor to have these problems. Like I don't think I've ever like one. Like I don't think I've ever seriously considered purchasing a thing from Balenciaga. So they're just like one of those brands that I'm just like. It's like I don't think about flying Virgin Airways, not because they're too expensive, but they don't ever fly out of anywhere I'm going, anywhere I'm coming from. So it's just like I'm just like Balenciaga, okay,
I mean, I'm not
whatever.
gonna lie.
Like,
If what they do with some of these outrageous things is just for marketing purposes, then it's brilliant.
and I mean, I think it is, but also like, who you trying to market to? Not to me. Like,
I
I
mean,
guess they want to
of
be
course, it's not
relevant.
you. You're not. There are 7 billion people on Earth. Like so, you. It's not
Just-
definitely not to you. It's not to be, but it is to people that buy them. That's the hope.
I just,
There is a class or maybe an underclass of people that this is their thing. This is their world.
just,
Like
I'm looking at a top right now from Balenciaga that's like it looks like if you were it's 15 $1,590. It looks like if you were to take a pair of jeans and like cut it up and stick like where your pocket would be, you stick armholes in it and then just wear that and that's the top. It's lit like they probably bought some old navy jeans and made holes in them and now they're selling it as distressed denim pants top. This is for sale at Bergdorf Bergdorf Goodman for $1,590.
it's
They don't
both.
have it in my size, which is the only reason, I guess.
Wait, is both a pant and a top?
No, it's just the top,
Okay, but they call
but
it pant top. Okay,
pants
I
top,
get it.
right? Because they look like they cut up somebody's pants. It's like
Got
where are
it.
my pants? And it's just funny because I'm like, yeah, I was like, oh well, if only they had it in my size. Darn. This is anyway, but they're whatever. I don't
Yeah,
even
I
want
mean,
to waste brain space in this foolishness.
yeah, but anyway, yeah, that's too much of a digression. But anyway, so going back to
It's cool.
um, so
Um,
well, you're saying you first said everyone has questionable thoughts. You should speak for yourself. You know,
You don't have questionable thoughts?
you should speak for yourself.
Oh, 1 second, 1 second.
Um, yeah, you should speak for yourself. But uh, but yeah,
My good morning, my like morning wake up thing was just going nuts. What is Oh gosh, I just opened this document. Sorry, I'm gonna mute 1 second. It's yeah, people think I'm like online. Like I'm not. I'm just I don't anyway, I time zones, whatever. But oh yeah, questionable thoughts. I well I don't know if we got enough time to get into this one, but I remember somebody like was like tweet your most unpopular opinion. I was like, I actually don't think I could tweet this one because I think that it's too problematic. But it's the podcast. People are not gonna tweet at me or drag me on Twitter, so I'm gonna say it here. This is probably like one of my most problematic thoughts, right? I actually and I know the whatever responses people will have. I know it. I hear it. It's real. It's valid, but I still feel the way I do. So it's about children, right? You know that I don't intend to like to have kids, right? But I think that like so this is my spiel, and I may have actually said this before on the podcast. So this is so let me set it up. If if I went out tonight, met up with some guy, and he and I got really drunk, tequila shots, right? And we went back to his place and we were like, yo, let's bake a cake, right? We're like piss drunk. We're gonna bake a cake. If I asked you to bet on whether that cake would look good, taste good, like you'd probably be like, yeah, it's probably not gonna look good, right? Like, and let's take it even a step further. If we were like, you know what, we're gonna make a wedding cake. You know that cake is not gonna be good. It's just not gonna be good. It's not like no one's gonna pay for this cake to be at their wedding, right? And I say that to say, now flip it. If he and I were like, let's make a baby, right? We could pretty easily create new life that will now have bills and a job and be applying for scholarships and all that. Like that to me is fundamentally insane. Like you can't get drunk and make a cake. You can't accidentally whoopsie at 13 accidentally like make $1 million. But you could just like during your lunch period in high school, you could go make new life. It's nuts to me, right? So that's the background. So I think that everyone should actually be like pre, like and really men, right? Because it's easier for men to do this. All of the men should be pre-sterilized, right? Like just start. Did you just sit up? Is to
no,
just
I mean, I'm
start
listening.
off as soon as a guy can make a baby, he should have some sort of like a vasectomy. I know they say vasectomies are reversible, but I'm not actually sure how like for sure the reversibility is and all of that and how expensive it is, whatever. But let's say that a vasectomy can be reversed this easily, or you can just store a little bit of your baby making goods, like enough for all the babies you could ever want. Store it, pay a fee, the government pays for it, whatever. Right? Again, this is my world. I'm the president of the world, so I'm making all the rules here, right? So we will pay for every man to store his goods. And then everybody gets a vasectomy. And now, when you are ready and you have decided that you want to make a child, then you can go check it out. Now, how, if we're gonna make you jump through any hoops, whatever, I don't know. But the point is, it's too easy to make new life, and it shouldn't be. And I just like that's like my like
So basically, you're thinking people shouldn't be accidentally becoming parents.
because
Like,
it's insane. You can't accidentally go buy a car. I mean, I guess if you're rich enough, you can like go on Carvana today and like click. But it's just
but
like
at the very least, if you don't want to have a child, there are some people like they accidentally get pregnant or whatnot, and they're like, oh, okay, you know what, I, and they are fine with it, or like, so
sure,
that's
sure.
one thing.
I mean, of
But
course, I think
if
people should be able to abort everything they want to abort, right? Like that, like duh, right? All of the Plan B should be like $0, like not $50 at Walgreens.
But basically,
Uh,
your point being, if someone says, you know what, yeah, I don't want to do this, they shouldn't, like,
but I think I think like I think we're thinking about this problem to like that's too late. Oh, now you gotta. I feel like you shouldn't even be able to unless you're like, yeah, I'm down to, right? Because like I like it's funny. A friend of mine was saying that like he's never had a pregnancy scare, and he been in the streets. So he was like, I wonder if that means something is wrong. Like I feel like there are so many people who the only reason that they haven't gotten somebody pregnant is actually turns out that they can't, right? Like if not for that, they probably would have like made all these babies. And I just think like you should not be able to like accidentally like make like you should not even accident. I think that's too easy. You should be intentional. You should have to be intentional about creating new life. And like,
mhm.
this is not even like a cost thing, right? Because like getting,
No, the
having a
cost,
baby with
the cost, and also I think the cost should definitely play a part because, or I mean, not definitely. If it plays a part into your reason, then it is what it is. People have different reasons, right? They may think I'm not ready because I want to do, I want to be a little more settled in my career, or I want to be a little more mature. I just don't think I'm matured enough to have a child, or I'm not financially ready.
right.
I don't think the reason matters, but as long as you've just decided that, hey, I just don't think I'm ready, then that should be it. Like it should be, you know what?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that like and I definitely don't think that only people who have a lot of money should have children. I don't think that like but if you do have trouble with you and your partner's fertility for list of reasons, whether that's your gender/sexual identity or fertility, whatever, if you can't have a baby naturally, then it does become exponentially expensive, right? Like whether that is the adoption process or surrogacy or IVF or whatever, like that does become a lot more expensive. And those people, they want that kid, right? But then you got all these teenagers during their lunch hour who are like, oh, I mean, of course they're not trying to make a baby, but they're accidentally doing it, and it's too damn easy, and that it just shouldn't be. I just think that it should be a little harder.
So let me ask you this question. Like if you have two people, right? Like a guy and a girl, and the they're doing whatever they do. The girl gets accidentally, I mean, not gets accidentally, like gets pregnant,
Yeah.
and that wasn't planned. Like that wasn't, and it's kind of like, you um, and and this is not even a thing that most of the time this happens a lot where somebody doesn't want to keep it, or somebody doesn't want
Hmm.
the other person like, I still haven't thought of, I still don't know like how to manage something like that, right? Like, because regardless of what it is, you are getting into this situation where you can't there isn't really a negotiation. At least that's kind of like,
Oh, right. Yeah, So as a very definite 100% feminist, I think that because men don't bear a lot of these responsibility in a natural way, right? Like men get to choose how responsible they want to be, and women don't, right? So I think for that, because I literally had this conversation with a friend where they were saying, so I said, in the example of me and this person, I said, if he and I were to do something stupid and I got pregnant and I got a termination, I don't know that I would have that conversation with him before I did. And he was like, whoa, why? And I was like, because to what end, right? Like I've made it, like I wake up and I'm vomiting and I find out that I'm pregnant. I go on whatever app, I make the appointment, I get it done, right? Like, why do I need to talk to you about it? Because one, there's a risk. If I talk to you about it, absolute worst case scenario, you're a terrible person, and you say to me, you better not get this. I'm going to tell everybody you're, whatever, right? I know you're from a Nigerian conservative religious background. I'm going to tell everybody your business, right? Like that's like the absolute worst. But even, much milder than that, what if this person is not like telling me about how they really think, we can make it work, baby. Like I'll come be there. I'll be no, that's not the conversation we're having. We're not having a conversation. It's just like sort of like an email, BT dubs, FYI, schedule the procedure, check it out, done. Right. Like that's really the communication. And then if that's it, then like, why do I even need to tell you? But I do think that like, of course, in an ideal world, we want both people to feel the equal sense of responsibility, but we don't live in that world. And I think that like the only choice that the man gets to have is where to drop off his goods. After that, like if she wants, and it sucks. I think what really sucks
So what
is the
about the other way
situation.
around, where she wants, I mean, not even what about I
Right.
and I the other way around, where she wants to keep it and he doesn't. It's also the same thing where it's kind of
Yeah, like
like
it sucks for
is that
you that now you owe child support, but
yeah.
you
So I agree with that. I mean, and I guess the guy's choice at that point is to determine, okay, to what degree does he want to be involved after that, like
right.
whatever that is. So I guess, but my bigger question is just more around: is there even a better way to adjudicate that? Because
Mm.
I don't think it's helpful to just say no discussion, because you know what I'm saying, like, because these are relationships we're talking about,
Yeah, yeah.
and at the end of the day, and especially in the instance where you're going to have a child, there are
And
ramifications.
this is why my world works, where it's like, y'all both got to sign up and like be ready for it, because I don't think that there is a way to adjudicate, like, because
But now let me ask so yeah, you're right, there is no real way to adjudicate it, and that is and there goes like the catch 22, right? Because I mean, human beings, we all gonna have relationships, and um and yeah.
mass sterilize everybody, and then you don't even have these problems. Like, because there's like, how you get like, if a 13-year-old girl has
I don't
sex with a
want
13-year-old boy, and no one will let her get an abortion, or maybe she doesn't want an abortion, whatever, and now there's a baby being like, her life is a lot more challenged, and we're moving, and we're hoping to move to a world where the challenges that a woman, in any woman of any age, faces by having a child are not so much more than what a man has to deal with, that the men are like meeting up somewhere, and all of that. We want that world, and we are striving for that world, but until we get there, and even when we do get there, it sucks that these 13 and this 14-year olds lives, whatever, these two people's lives are now forever changed, especially when like, okay, like, yeah, they made the dumb decision, they didn't get plan B, whatever, right after that, right? It's just like, now their lives are for, which is why I'm like hella pro choice. Like, yeah, like, dude, whatever. Like, you shouldn't have to now live for the, because it's also not this 18-year thing that we talk about. It's like the absolute rest of your life. You are now tied to this person. And of course, everyone is like, well, I love my children. Yeah, of course you love them now that they exist. I, as a person who doesn't want kids, like I love children. I love other because they exist. Like, what am I gonna hate a person that exists? Like, it's whatever. But it's like you should be able to make that choice beforehand, and I think that that choice should be like what it's just I don't know. There's no way like until and unless we get to the point where you can make babies in labs, and even then, it's gonna be a lot cheaper to just get pregnant on Friday night than it is to like cook the baby in the lab oven or whatever. But I just it's one of those things that like biology does not allow there to be room for negotiation, right? Like it
Yeah, I
is
mean,
what it is.
evolutionarily, it is a necessary evolution process. So, um, and I guess historically, men have always owned women, and in the sense of like, there's just kind of like if a guy is mating with this woman, women are considered property.
Yeah, so it doesn't like actually matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it is an interesting conversation. The funny thing is when when we construct societies and we construct people's all of what men's role in societies, women's role, and children's role. Like, I think it's interesting how different societies just have um these different ways that they view all of these parties. Like, I was talking to someone recently, and I was telling him about you know one of the things that I kind of like about it. Maybe you should tell me this if my thinking is wrong on this. It feels to me that our society in general is starting to acknowledge certain things that you know that weren't acknowledged. So, for instance, for guys, like, it's starting to acknowledge for guys that men do have some pressures, some societal pressures to do certain things,
mm,
like to be quote unquote a provider, like to just be certain things, even if
yeah,
you're not that person, like to be strong, whatever that means,
yeah,
like. And it seems like we are becoming more and more accepting that no, like, it's okay for a guy to be emotional, and that doesn't mean you're less of a guy, or that doesn't mean
yeah,
you're not masculine or whatever. Because I mean, as a guy, what some of the things that you don't want to be labeled as is that you're not masculine or you're not a man,
right, right,
because you do certain things. And there is a taboo about um, how society looks down upon someone that is considered not a man, quote unquote,
and
whatever
and
that is.
and these are the conversations that I think like when we talk about like feminism, I think that like men should be like the first feminists, right? I mean, obviously, say that tongue in cheek, but like a lot of what a lot of the strive for equality benefits men and women, right? Like if you are a single man making $150,000, right? And your life looks very different if women can earn a living versus if women can't. Your life looks very different and your expenses look very different if women are able to have $150,000 jobs or if women can only make $50,000, right? Like if at least assuming that you're a straight man who's looking to marry a woman, right? Like because like it should matter if your wife makes 150K and you make 150K, right? And it's okay and you don't feel weird about it or whatever. And now that means maybe you are able to take that sabbatical and have a light summer where you schedule hours to think and walk and smell flowers, right? And all of these things. But as opposed to this, like, I'm a man, and so like I have to handle all of the things. But a
I have
lot of men
to,
don't see it
I
that
have
way
to go
because
break my back
historically,
every day.
you say what?
I say I have to go break my back every day, like, because
Yeah, and it's like you're a whole person. You deserve, to run a bath and get flowers if you want or whatever, right? Like you don't need to be out here trying to, oh, I am man, hear me roar. Like my brother and I were talking about this the other day about how like he's 26, right? Like he goes out with, of course, I think like dates are a little different, right? Like you take a woman on a date, you pay, that's the end of that. I don't care what anybody says. But like when he and three of his guy friends and three of their female friends all go to dinner and the women are expecting, they go to the club and the women are expecting that they're covering everything. And I'm like, at some point, like that's not okay. Like if six people go to dinner, all of whom are on the same age, all have similar jobs, why are the men the ones that are covering the bill? Because you do
I mean,
that three,
it's
four,
not a
five
date.
times.
You mean like if they're just friends
Yeah, just friends.
and the man are go? I many years ago I went on a date that I had a fight
Oh
with
God.
the person I went out with because I wanted to pay, and that's because I mean this was many years ago,
Yeah.
and of course my thinking at the time is, hey, as a guy, that is the guy thing to do.
Yeah, you're supposed to pay.
That you're supposed to pay, and she wasn't having it, and I was having this conversation back and forth
Was this
like,
a first date?
yes. And I was having this conversation like, no, like I got to pay. And I was trying to talk to the waiter, like, no, 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 like just give me the whatever, like you listen to her,
That's cute.
like, but anyway, and I mean, it was a big, like she was so upset. So I was
See,
shocked.
that's childish. That's childish. Like
I was, I was shocked.
she's bugging. I think now as a woman, I will not on first dates anymore. I come full circle on this, right? I remember being 19, a boy asked me out on a date, and I said the only way we're going on this date is if I get to pay for myself. And he's from very Texas. He was like, "Oh hell no, we're not going on a date if you gotta pay. Like my mama will beat my ass." And I was like, "I guess we're not going." To be honest, I didn't really want to go on the date, and I thought that like by him paying, also we're in college, like I'm like I don't know, like that's your money, like whatever, right? Anyway, I've come full circle on that. So where now I will not go on a first date where I'm expected to spend my own money. Like I'm just not gonna go. And I think that people should be upfront about it, right? And also it's like guys, there are guys who wish that women would pay on dates for themselves, right? They wish they could go Dutch on all dates. My problem with men is that they don't communicate that. And then they go on these dates and then they're like, man, women don't ever offer to pay. And it's like, if it bothered you, which it doesn't because their
See,
actions betray it,
that's
you
the
would talk
problem.
about it.
I think that's the problem. What you just described is the communication. Because one thing I think is missing around this is we forget that that's how men are socialized as well. Like, hey, you pay for the day, you like, or you do something, you know what I'm saying? Like, or at least how
Yeah.
a lot of men, like a good chunk of men in society, that's how we are socialized. Like, if you go on a date, there are certain things that you do, or you're the one that asks someone out on a date. Like, I don't know that
Right.
y- maybe more recently is happening that women would more, I mean, obviously more and more women ask men out on dates these days.
Yeah. Well,
But
most dates, the guy, most,
yeah,
yeah.
like, but that is how we are socialized. Like, so I mean, I will even say that today, like if a woman asks a guy out, like the
It's
guy
still
is
not.
very likely to be surprised. Like,
Yeah,
wow.
his ass still gonna pay. So hello. I'm just saying, look, I've asked men out on dates and I didn't. Well,
So wait a
I'm
minute, how would that conversation go? Like, so somebody asks you out and they'll be like, "Hey, Ayo, okay, let's go to dinner on Friday. Okay, good. At 7." So you expect the guy to say, "Okay, look, um, my expectation is that we're
I
gonna
the
split
thing
the
is, it
bill."
don't even
Like,
have to be
I
like
was just,
deep,
I
right?
was,
Hey, do you mind if we go Dutch? Like, that's it. Like, that's all it is. Like,
okay,
especially if we got a word for it too, you ain't even gotta be like, you pay for you, I pay for me. Like, hey, is it cool if we go Dutch?
like, should
And
we just,
here's the
like,
thing.
should we just split it? I mean, I think, you know, I think that that is respectable. Like, if you just upfront about it, like even the other way around, like if the guy is going to pay, like even if you say, hey, look, I'm asking you and this is on me, like you just put it out, so there
Right.
isn't,
And
so that,
right. And I think so this thing, there's a thing that people do that irks me, where people act like they live like they're visiting this planet from a different one, right? So when guys will do the thing where they're like, well, why I gotta, why you gotta pay? Because you're not a
that's
visitor
how
to
it
this
is. That's what
planet.
it is.
And so then if you are on the date, because one thing I can't stand is men who have done, I don't know that this is even half a percent of men, right? Of any dates has this happened. But I know that it does happen where guys on in that moment will then say like, "Oh, we got to go Dutch," right? And it's like, wait a minute, you didn't, because you know we're on this planet, on this planet men pay. So if you want anything to me that is different from the default setting, right, it's kind of like if you,
You
like
want if you
these
want the
days,
exception to the rule, you got to communicate.
right, like these days we know the exception is paying cash, the rule is paying by card. You can't be like, well, I'm just shocked, appalled that you all expect me to pay with a card. Most people do, like that's how things work, right? And so it's like when people act shocked by the norm, I'm just like, where are you visiting this planet? Because it's fine to say I want something different from the norm as a man. If you said, and I think it's perfectly okay, acceptable for a man, a single man in 2022 to say, I do not pay for adult women's meals, or I don't pay for another adult's meals. I think it's perfectly fine. Here is the reality. It might close off some of your dating options, right? There are people who won't go out with you. I won't go out with you on a first date. Like now I have paid for myself or picked up the bill on like, second, third, whatever dates. Or like, after I've been seeing someone for a little bit, like, okay, I'm going over to your house. You want me to pick up something and I pay for it. And it's not even a question, right? But that first date,
That you go out,
I'm just
I mean,
not.
first date that you go out and eat, or
Yeah, and like I'm like, no.
you go out
So
and
if,
eat.
and also don't try to make me go on no spend stupid ass park walk date. This I did one of those recently and I was like, this is so stupid.
So
Like,
that was what I was gonna say. Like, if you are someone that you know you are not gonna, I mean, maybe that's something that if you're someone that you're not gonna, your thing is you just don't pay on first dates, or as you said, like you don't pay for adult women. Maybe you need to be just be more creative about what you do, where there isn't a lot of pain of something involved. Like,
and the thing is, guys, oftentimes it's not even about money. The guys who don't want to pay, it's not like I'm so poor I can't like pay. It's like it's a principle, right? And if that's the case, honestly, I think that if that's your principle as a guy, you probably have other principles that you need to be upfront with people about, right? Like I fully expect to have separate accounts for. I mean, of course, you don't have to like say that kind of stuff like before a first date. I just think like, look, a lot of men, I think, and actually, a lot of dating is scamming, right? Like it's people like hiding information, hiding deal breaker information
I don't
until
involved.
the person can't like
They
opt
can
out
they
anymore.
can deep out.
Yeah, because if you wait until we are sitting, until I don't got cute and showed up to the restaurant to tell me that I'm paying for myself, knowing the norms say the opposite, you're trying to scam me.
Well, scam. I mean, I think scam is a word, but I
Deceive,
understand what you're
deceptive. You're
saying.
being deceptive,
I don't,
intentionally so.
I don't know if deceptive is also that, but I think I definitely agree that it should be communicated. Like, but I think on the other hand, maybe another thing should just be that people that are going on this, you just expect to pay their way, and if somebody offers you
Again,
on
that's
the other,
like that out of that's like off planet shit though. Like it
no,
don't
no,
like this is not like
I'm saying, as you know, we were talking earlier about the baby thing, about how do we resolve
oh
some
right, if
conflict.
you were president of the world, it
Yeah,
would be that.
if I were adjudicating this, if I were to pass a rule, I'll be like, okay, you know what? If you're gonna go on date, just expect to pay your
Yeah,
way. Like that is the default. Like
yeah.
we're gonna go on date, we agree
And
to
I
this.
would be perfectly fine with that world.
So
Why? Because like why not? Like I'm an adult. If I'm because also that means because I've been in situations where I have ordered something that wouldn't have been my first choice because I am trying to match the other person's spend. I am trying to be, like there are restaurants that like, and also it's also why like I won't go on a first date with someone to like one of my favorite restaurants, right? Because I, I'm not gonna go order the cheap thing. I mean, not that my favorites on every menu are expensive. It's just that like I don't want to be conscientious at the places that I love, right? Like I want to like enjoy myself. Um, and oftentimes I am trying to, like I'm ordering something in the middle. Like, we go to a restaurant where I normally would get like maybe a steak or something, and then I see the dudes ordering getting a sandwich, and I'm like, I guess I'll get the sandwich, like whatever. Like, and I don't like that. So I think it's
yeah,
fine, and I think that people should pay for themselves.
yeah, I'm just saying that should be the default, where everybody expects to pay it for themselves, and then you know anything can happen in terms of who ends up paying
Yeah.
one way or the other. Like so, um,
I am
so
perfectly okay with that world.
you wouldn't go out on a date with somebody if they were like, look, we are split. They're not even saying that you should pay. They're telling you that we are splitting, and you're like, nah, son. Like,
I That's where I am now. And it's funny because I've like it wasn't a date. I think there was someone who I like had been friends with when I was in Nigeria, and he was like, "Oh, let's go, da, 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 you go." I mean, he was asking me to pay for him too, and I was just like, "Absolutely not." And so we never met up, and that was perfectly fine with me. I'm not saying it could never happen. Like there are people that like if I like him enough, like all these things are about like the rules. There's obviously exceptions to all of this, right? But I'm just like, do not put me in no stupid ass situation. Like and like I'm just at the point where now it's like my form of self-love just looks like I don't want to go anywhere. I don't leave me alone. I'm in my house. I'm happy in my house. Just don't ask me like is this a date? Is this clearly a date? Now, if this is a friend who I've known for a little bit who's maybe hoping that our relationship will change and says, "Hey, you want to go grab dinner tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And the other thing is also because I'm at the age that I'm at, like I go out with my male friends and they pay, right? And obviously, if it's a friend that I'm going to consistently go out with, sometimes I'll pay, and then it's just like, you know, friendship. Like it's not
I
because
mean,
I
so this
hate when
is
people try.
it. You know, I agree with what you say because it is an acknowledgement of the different roles that males and females have in society in terms of the expectations. Because you wouldn't have this same expectation of your female friends. Like
Right.
the male friend that you just talked about, that that they pay. I'm sure that you have no female friend that pays, or almost none.
Not
Like
well.
if they are friends and you go out and eat, like you are not gonna like you.
It's more of a mix. It's more of a mix, especially the older I get, right? I think when I was in my early 20s, there was never an expectation that another woman would pick up the bill. But now where I'm at, there are times where I go out with a female friend and like she's like, no, I got this, or like we're fighting over it, or like I am, and even now, like I recently went to dinner with a former colleague who's a guy. He had just switched jobs, and so it's like, oh, let's like have dinner and catch up. And I waited until he went to the bathroom, and I called the waiter and I said, go run the go run the card because I knew that if he came back out, we were gonna have a fight about it, right? And of course, everybody's different, every woman's different, and whatever. But I think that like with female friends, it's usually more of a mixed bag. But like women do be treating each other like, no, girl, I got this. And of course, part of it depends on like, if we're going out to some like fancy new place and we're splitting a expensive bottle, then like, it might be like, girl, you better pull out your
Yeah,
card.
I mean, women do it, but I guess the expectation is not there. That's
The
maybe that's
expectation, no, and
so.
that's what you're saying about like in that universe where you expect to pay. Now what actually happens may be just based on how people are feeling, who like sometimes you're out with a friend who's like, I'm visiting and work is paying all my bills, so like, yeah, actually I'll pay for our dinner on my work card, right? Like that's a thing that happens too. And so I think it's just a matter of the expectation, which is why I think that like in platonic, friendships with men and women, it's silly for women to expect men to pick up the bill. And I also think that, and this is like, I don't want to lose my feminist card here. I think that like men are a
I'm
part of
gonna
this
you better think
thing.
about it. I'm gonna revoke your feminist card. You
Yeah,
said
no,
you
I'm
said
like,
men
oh
are what?
Lord. Yeah, no, I just think that men like nobody's sticking their hand in your pocket and making you pay for stuff, right? Like just that, like my brother and I were talking about this because he's like, yeah, no, like some of these things are ridiculous. So he like now like there are things he won't go to. He's like, nah. With that setup, I know they're gonna like all the girls are gonna look to the guys to pay for it because especially when it's like six people go out, three of them are girls, three of them are guys. Oftentimes, especially in their like generation, the three girls expect the three guys to split all of the bill between them, and I think that like why like six of us get paychecks, why only three paychecks paying for this? Like
Yeah.
that would happen to me once, and I'd never go out with those people and be like, no, like birthday dinners, it's like one of those Twitter conversations. You host a birthday dinner, like one, I fully expect that everyone who comes here, orders food and eats it, should pay for it because you're an adult. Two, I'm not a fan of like, okay, 10 people had dinner. I had a sandwich and soup. You had an entree, tomahawk burger, uh, dessert, and a bottle of wine, and now we get to split it even. No, no, no. Mm-mm, won't do it.
Yeah.
Just not gonna happen. I will go to the bar and tell the waiter, go ahead, here's my card, here's what I ordered, let's go. Because I think that like, and these norms are, whatever, norms be norming. But it's just like it upset, like I'm very, and I'm sure there are people who feel, I know that there are people who feel very strongly about this, like all of the time everything should be split, and I'm like, no, because I think then you have a freeloader problem. There are going to be people who will order the expensive things and then like split their big expense across all of us. And it only makes sense if, like, of course, there's some restaurants where there's 5 items on the menu and they're all like within a $3 to $5 difference from each other. Like, then that's like whatever, right? But not when there was like $100 item on the menu and there's a $20 item on the menu. We're not splitting that evenly. Crazy. But I think it's just philosophically, I feel like adult humans should be responsible for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I've gone out with people before where it will be a group of folks and, a group of, I don't know, 5, 6 guys, and we're eating and we just split things out equally. Um,
Yeah.
um, I remember there was a time when I don't remember. Maybe it would have been Manny or something. I mean, I don't. Maybe it was
Drag Manny.
no, no, no. It wasn't. There was this particular time when this person was like, "No, that I'm not going to let you pay." Talking to me because he was like, you don't drink, and a lot of what a lot of
Mm,
part of a
yeah.
big part of the bill is like alcohol, like food is actually not generally that expensive. And we're splitting, 4 people splitting a $200 bill, or I don't know. And
Mm,
like, every time you come out, you just eat and you drink water and
yeah, yeah.
so there's that piece to it. Um, but
I'm not the who ordered what Nazi, right? Like, I'm not that person who's like, I think it's just all of these things, it's about fairness, right? Like, I think that, like, yeah, like there are times where I'm just not going to make a big deal about it, or it's too much of a hassle. And also, I mean, I do think that there's so many things that like we shouldn't depend on norms. We should just have like rules, right? Like, where I would love a situation where at a restaurant, like, and there are restaurants like that where like everybody goes up top, orders, pays, and then they bring the food to you. Like, love those concepts because again, we don't need no bullshit. Just handle your business, because it's not about, because the other flip side is the very Nigerian conversations about like, if you're hosting a birthday dinner then you pay for everyone. Well, if I'm paying for everyone, I'm going to invite 4 people. If people can pay for themselves, maybe I'll invite 10 people, and maybe I really want those 10 people and all of those 10 people will enjoy themselves. But I'm not feeding 10 people at a restaurant because it's my birthday. Y'all owe me gifts. But I think it's about fairness, right? And that's why there are friendships where, yeah, like sometimes we go out with guys and female friends. Sometimes we go out and I pay, sometimes they pay. Sometimes we fight about it because, in retrospect, the guy colleague that I paid for this last time, it was well after the dinner that I realized the last time we went out, we fought about it and I won. Because I mean, like, one, I look at the waiter and I'm like, look me in the eye, take this card and go run it. And if this man tries to stop you, I will fight him. Like, I'm very, if it's a fight about who's gonna pay, I like almost always win. The only time I don't win is if I don't really, really want to pay. Then I'm like, you know what, it's fine. But if I want to win, because it's not even hard. It's just like I look at the waiter and I'm like, I will follow you. Like, I will fight to the death on this. But I'd never do that on a date with a man. Hell no, will not. It's
well,
against my religion.
on that note, we know that we should be we don't know what religion are your practices, but you know, on that note, we've come to the
Kinda forever.
end of the show. We didn't even really get into Kanye, but it's all good. You know, he said
Leave that man alone.
yeah, yeah, leave Kanye alone. You know, he's already canceled. He supposedly lost 1 point something billion dollars in, you know, like in the value of his net worth because he lost all those deals. So
He don't care.
he's not going to live in this.
What's a billion among friends?
Yeah, we've come to the end of the show. So hopefully until next time. Yeah,
Yeah. Please don't drag me. Anybody. Or drag me. I don't care. Whatever.
Dragon.